Hey everybody, today at UPR Garage we're going to be changing out the factory camber arm on our S550 2024 Mustang and installing the UPR Billet Camber Arm. And this is a big upgrade over stock. It's much more durable, actually a bit lighter. And with the solid bushing on one end and the urethane on the other, you're going to get much better handling and stability out of this part. So let's get right into it and get it changed out. You're going to need a 15 millimeter and an 18 millimeter wrench, ratcheting preferably, and you're going to remove the rear, or I should say the outward bolt from the camber arm. Now I should mention, before we did this, we went ahead and measured from a reference point, like the little sharp edge here on the spindle, to the frame, and I also made a mark, a little scribe on the nut on the inside of the cradle, just to give us some idea of where this is going to want to land back when we put this back together. But whenever you change something like this in your suspension, especially when it does your camber or your toe, you want to have it aligned by a alignment professional when you're done. Everyone always says, Steve, why don't you use air tools? Steve, why don't you use an electric gun? I'm old school. This is how I like to do it. I'm stuck in my ways. Now this one's a bit tough to get to because you've got fuel hoses and harnesses kind of in the way. All right, not the most fun side to do. The passenger side is a little easier because you don't have the fuel hoses and stuff in the way. Once you snake your factory camber arm out of there, you're going to keep the hardware.
Okay, so I want to hit you with a little bit of S550, S650 IRS tech. Before Steve puts this UPR billet camber arm in there, I wanted to show you a little bit about the difference between the factory camber arm and our billet camber arm. You notice that this is the non-adjustable arm. We do make a billet adjustable arm for the IRS cars. The reason why this has been such a popular choice is because it's really simple to install. It installs just like the factory piece. When you glance at it, it looks like it would almost be the same, but one thing that's actually different about this arm, other than the better materials, is that it's a little bit longer from center to center than the factory arm. Now this is super critical, and here's why. One thing that we've seen a lot on these S550 and S650 cars is that people tend to want to lower them just a hair. As soon as you lower these cars a little bit, you get extra negative camber. Now the factory specs are in the neighborhood of -1 degree of camber, and then a performance pack car will be more like 2 degrees of negative camber. So that means that your tires are already angled in like this, okay? Then when you lower the car, even just like an inch, because you want it to look good, you know, stance bro, it gets enough negative camber, say -3 degrees, that you could have the best Mickey Thompson drag radials in the world on the back of your car, but if they're angled in like this, only half of the tire tread is touching the ground. So we were having customers that, you know, have all of the right suspension, have great tires, and having trouble 60-footing. What we do is we recommend our billet arms or the adjustable ones, and you actually use them to bring some of that negative camber out because the ideal scenario is to have the tire straight up and down on the ground when you launch, so you're getting the use of all of that tire tread. So this arm that you're going to see him put in there at a glance is going to look very similar to the factory arm, but it is a little bit longer, and that gives you a little bit more range of adjustment on the camber that you don't have with the factory piece.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and install our Billet UPR camber arm, and this camber arm, again, it's going to look very similar to the factory arm. It's a bit lighter. Billet aluminum construction, spherical end, urethane bushing here, so it's important to use a good non-petroleum based grease. When you grease this bushing, you do not want to use a petroleum based grease, it will eat the bushing over time. What I've found is easier is to put the inboard side up into the cradle first, then put this part in, and then go ahead and tighten everything up. So it's going to be impossible to see with the camera angle and getting stuff in here, but just kind of pop this into the cradle, and you're going to guide the bolt into place. And the little flag that's on that bolt is going to face in towards the cradle, so you're going to get that into the pocket. That flag will stay, and then you put the nut on there, and then you only have to really worry about tightening the nut, and the head of the bolt will stay in place. We get that nut started. Now the order of hardware on the outer portion here is you're going to have the bushing with the cone on the end is going to face forward, and it's going to engage into the pocket that's on the spindle or the knuckle. And just be careful of the ABS wires and the brake hoses and such when you're putting everything together. Okay. Put your washer and your lock nut in place. And to tighten this up, the UPR hardware is 19 millimeter. The inner nut is factory, and that's going to be 18 millimeter. So to get the nut started, you're going to hold that back of the bolt. And again, I apologize for the camera angle, but there's just a lot of fuel lines and fill hoses in the way. Once the nut grabs, it's going to rotate that bolt, so that flag is going to rotate around and grab that cradle. So again, you just want to kind of feel it, make sure that the flag on that bolt is engaging the cradle properly, and then go ahead and tighten it down. Now, again, we had made some marks and made some measurements, so we'll double check our marks, adjust this as need be to get as close as possible as we can. Then we're going to visit our alignment shop and have a final alignment done on the rear suspension so we can get that ready for our road or track day. That's our UPR Products Billet Camber Arm. Same process for the adjustable camber arm. The only difference being you do have an adjustment on the camber arm that you can use to make further alignment adjustments. So it's going to be the same process for the adjustable. Get yours at uprproducts.com or any UPR Products dealer.